So hi everyone, thank you for joining for the second Engaging Data Bites session. Today we're with our partners WhereScape. We're going to jump straight into this because I appreciate that people are taking time out of their really busy days. For those that don't know me, my name's Chris. I work with Engaging Data, and today we're here to introduce you to WhereScape Automation Technology. Firstly, you're going to hear from our very own Carl Richards. Carl is going to share some of his experience as a WhereScape customer prior to joining us and helping loads of other people with their WhereScape projects. Then you're going to hear from Christy, part of the WhereScape team. She's going to give you more of a formal introduction to WhereScape, a little bit more detail around who they are and what's going on. And then Carl's going to take us through a short WhereScape demo. If you have any questions, I'm sure there's going to be some, please stick them in the comments so we can cover those off at the end of the demo. So any questions, no matter what they are, stick them in. We'll try and get to all of those. Carl, you ready to go?
Yep, all ready to go.
Brilliant. Let's get going then. Thank you.
Cool. So I'm Carl Richards, Head of Consultancy Services with Engaging Data and a proud user of WhereScape. Been using it for a long time now. I can't even remember how many years, but really enjoy using it. So I was a WhereScape customer a number of years ago. I worked for one of the largest healthcare insurers in the UK. And we had a particular problem. We had built a data warehouse that took 18 months to develop, consolidated a number of source systems, policy servicing systems, claim systems. And as soon as we implemented it, we had quite a major issue in the fact that we had one person that was an expert, took a long time to make changes. Anybody else that wanted to make a change was a little bit scared of making changes. And it was taken well over 8 hours every evening to go and grab data from source systems. We also had a secondary issue that a lot of the data that we were grabbing from other business units was supplied to us via kind of comma separated spreadsheets. And it just gave us a big headache. So I looked around, couldn't find anything I liked from an ETL tool. We looked at Alteryx, we looked at Informatica, completely priced us out. And we also looked at Pentaho, but we couldn't find anything that was easy to use and fulfilled our methodology at the time, which was new to us, which was Agile. So found a product called WhereScape. We were particularly interested in WhereScape Red, which is one of the products that we were interested in. And we took a lovely afternoon out and went up to Heathrow and did a test drive and found that it was the perfect fit for our team. It meant that we could downsize the number of developers, which is always good from a cost point of view. But we found that when we then implemented it, it only took one person 4 weeks to retrofit what we'd already delivered in the 18 months. And then we had the 4 remaining developers that we had. They were able to go in and make changes really quickly. We used CI/CD to then deploy those changes across our environment landscape. And the biggest benefit we found was that we reduced our overnight processing time from 8 hours to 1 hour, which really benefited our team. We were then able to really support and scale out. The CEO was really kind of infused by all of this, and we were then able to scale out and it kind of encompass more source systems, more of the business units across the organization, and actually able to provide board level reporting for all of the information that he required. So that was really good. That's a little bit about our kind of my user case or my previous user case on why we chose WhereScape and the reasons why we kind of went for it from a speed and agility point of view. And I think I'm now happy to hand over to Christy to do some slides.
No, absolutely. Yep, so I'm Christy Webb. I'm Enterprise Account Manager for WhereScape for Benelux in the UK. So working with customers right through from the beginning of their journey through to our existing customer base and supporting them as their WhereScape implementation grows. So for those who aren't at all familiar with WhereScape, we've been around for over 20 years now, and what we're really all about is connecting the data from A to B in the quickest and most accurate way possible. We do this for a variety of different size implementations for over 1,000 customers worldwide, and typically we can increase developer output by approximately five times. What we want to do is reduce the monotonous, repetitive steps throughout the data warehouse journey so that developers can focus on the really cool and interesting stuff. So we work with a variety of customers across Europe. Vodafone, for example, in the Netherlands, they cut their production time from 6 months down to 2 days. and reduce their load times by 90%, eliminating the cost of their ETL solution. A leading automotive company, they actually developed their enterprise data warehouse 10 times faster and are now able to quickly and easily integrate big data into their environment, but most importantly, deliver BI solutions to the business much more quicker and much more consistently. Rabobank as well, they're now releasing into production in 2 hours rather than 2 weeks, and their whole team dynamic shifted, so they're now able to work in a much more agile way or a much more flexible way, saving time and money. So we go by the slogan of you architect and we automate. So however you choose to model your data warehouse or the architecture you choose to follow, we can automate each of those steps. So whether you're looking at Data Vault, Data Marts, ODS, on cloud, on-prem, or whichever patterns you're choosing to load your data, WhereScape can automate those steps. Again, we also don't mind which target platform that you use. So long as we can connect to the target platform, we're able to auto-generate all of that native code, documentation, and lineage throughout the whole process. As I said, we want to connect the data as quickly and accurately as possible. And in doing so, we reduce the risk associated with manual hand coding, but also the cost. Provide much greater consistency and supportability, make the data warehouse platform much more future-proof. So you can easily port to new platforms in the future. Everything is fully and automatically documented and compliant. And what everybody wants to see, much happier end users who are receiving those insights that they need at a much more quicker pace. Carl will go through all of this much more in his demo shortly, but how we do this is with our 2 core products within our product suite. So we have WhereScape 3D, which is our design tool. So this is where you may profile source data, discover those source systems and design your data models. And WhereScape Red. So Red is the physical builder where you generate physical structures by importing from 3D. ETL or ELT process takes place here with documentation and scheduling also. But Carl will go through these in much more detail. What WhereScape can cover is everything in between and including these 2 red columns. So this is a union or diagram. You may decide to skip certain steps. It might not be applicable, but WhereScape will sit on top of your underlying target platform and tell the underlying database what it is to do, which code to write, depending on your choice of architecture from here. So I think a good time, Carl, to hand over to get into the technical details.
Cool. Thank you, Christy. What I'm going to do is just really quickly demonstrate how we use WhereScape, and this is WhereScape Red. I won't touch on WhereScape 3D too much today, but if you've got any questions about it, it's a high-level design tool that allows you to discover a source and then import that information into Red. As Christy said, you can then do the heavy lifting and the building work in Red. So this is WhereScape Red. What we've got in front of us is a list of all of the objects that are contained within WhereScape Red. I've hidden some of the object types, but a lot of them are here. You can see that we've got hubs, links, and satellites, so we can do Data Vault in here as well. But today we're going to concentrate on a traditional Kimball model. So these are the object types that are available in Red. And then on the right-hand side, this is our source system or our data warehouse objects that we've got, depending on which connection we've chosen. So for this demonstration, I'm going to add in a new dimension to an existing model. So if I go to diagram and show the existing models and go to fact tables and choose my existing fact and schema diagram, we can see that we've got a fact table that exists. We've got order date, ship date, and dim customer. And today I'm going to add in product. So I'm going to browse my source system, which is called sales. This then allows me to view the objects within the sales database. And this is a SQL Server source system and a SQL Server repository system where the data warehouse is going to live. If I double click on my load tables, I can take the product table and drag it in. And I'm going to load this via SQL to SQL Server. So there's no data type mappings required, but if we were to move from a SQL Server to an Oracle database or vice versa, you can see that there's lots of different data type mappings between these. Going to hit add. What that's going to do is go away and pull all of the definitions of that table into WhereScape Red and work out what's the best way of loading it. Here are all of the columns that exist within the source system under product. I'm going to hit create. That's created the table ready for loading of data. And if I go in here and do display table columns, you can see that product ID, product code, product code. So we've got an exact match So now if I hit load, it will load that data in. We've loaded 1800 rows, and now we're ready to start staging that data. So if I move to stage, first I need to move to my repository and press OK. Expand that down, and we should see load product now. And in the brackets is the number of rows that are in that table. I'm going to hit stage, drag load product into here, and we're going to call it stage product. Press add. And again, it does a very similar process. It allows us to choose what type of table it is. We're not doing data vault in this demo, as I said a minute ago, so we're just going to stage the data and press OK. Brings forward the columns, and I'm going to hit create, and I'm going to create the stored procedure that moves the data from the load table into this stage table. Stage prop, sorry. And that then goes away and builds procedures. Now we can have a look, and this is one of the benefits that we had when I was at my insurers, that this then produced code that was readable within my team. There's this the template that was chosen generates the code that generates this procedure that's stored within the database. This, you can see, is very clear and easy to read. And one of the things that Christy mentioned in her presentation is you get that consistency, and it's performance tuned code. So this code is as performant as it can be at this point in time. So we can see here it's going to take the data from our load table that we just created and loaded from our source system and insert it into our stage table. At this point in time, we can add transformations, but we're going to keep it simple for today. I'm just going to process it, and that will populate that table with 1800 rows. Now I'm going to create my dimension. So again, I'll navigate to here and refresh this view. And now I should see that I've got stage product. Double click on my dimension and move that stage product table here. This will then create dim product. I'm going to press add. It's a normal product. It's a normal dimension, so I'm just going to choose that option, but there are other options, slowly changing previous values and date ranged. And press normal. And then again, it comes up with this screen. That's OK. And then we can see here it's created all the columns, but it's added an extra column for our dimension key. I'm going to press create and load. But I need to create a procedure, so let's do that. It's a set-based operation, so we've got options here that we can choose different options on how we want to load it, but ultimately it's building the most performant code. We're going to choose our business key, which is the product ID, and press OK. And we're going to flush and fill this dimension on a regular basis. So I'm going to remove all the other options. I want to delete every time, so I'm going to choose truncate and press OK. It's created the indexes for us based off of what we've chosen just a second ago in the options. And now if I press execute procedure, we see that the 1800 rows have been moved into the dimension. And if we have a look, we can see that we've got data which matches exactly the same as the data that we've originally received from the source system, which goes all the way back to here. So we've got this great lineage of being able to see what the data was until what it is. We also have the ability to then go and track back this information. So if I track back the diagram, we can see that's the dimension I've just created. That's the stage table I created previously. That's the load table that we dragged in from the source system. So it gives us great ability to go and see what we've done. So now I'm going to go to my stage order details, which is my fact table. I can see already that the fact table exists, but it's got the dimension keys for every other dimension apart from the one that we've just created. So I'll refresh my data again from my data warehouse. And now I'm going to bring in my dimension key from dim product. Drag that in. And it is as simple as that, add in the key. I now need to recreate my table because it's changed, the definition has changed. And I'm going to get it to regenerate my procedure. Okay, if I execute that now and have a look, we should see that dim product has a key which is populated. And now if I move to my fact table and do exactly the same thing, add in my additional key, and this time I'll take it from stage order details. That's now added in. I need to do exactly the same thing, change my table, and I won't regenerate the procedure. We'll go through the options that it generates for this. So within a fact, we have some additional options when rebuilding the procedure. So we can choose the business key that's on our fact, press OK, and then it will run through and create the procedure for that. Now, if we have a look at that procedure that's been created, this is a flush and fill fact, so every day it's truncated and repopulated. We can see that it's just literally picking up the detail from the stage order details stage table, and the reason being is that we want the stage table to do all the work and make the fact table as simple as possible. Now if I repopulate that will whirl away. We've now got all the results that we expect. And if we have a look at the diagram again, I create a new one, go to fact and choose our fact, we should now see that it's got the 4 dimensions and the product was the additional one that we just added. And that's as quick and easy as it is. One of the benefits of making changes within WhereScape is that it is so quick and easy and it's not labor intensive. That's pretty much my demonstration. If anybody's got any questions, or I can hand over to Chris.
Well, we have got some questions building up in the comments section, Carl.
Cool.
So the first one we have is, how do you transform data calculations, or if this then that on columns? That's from Martin.
As I said, we didn't really go into too much detail around doing transformations, but on our stage table, if I open up product, actually I did think about this before we do this. So yeah, if we open up order details, and what I was going to do was, if I display this data, you'll see here that we've got a Y and an N contained in sales tax flag. So what we could do is go into sales tax flag and have a look at that table, have a look at that column, sorry. And we can adjust this to be slightly larger, because obviously if we want to add a description, it's not very helpful if it's only one char 1. And we go into a tab called transformation, and this is where we're able to add basically T-SQL. So here I've added in just a simple case statement that takes what's already in the tax flag, and if it equals Y, change it to yes. If it equals N, change it to no, and else, just set it to unknown. So then we just press OK, and again we would rebuild the procedure, or regenerate the procedure in this case, and alter the table so that it's updated to a varchar 10. And then if I execute that procedure and then display the data, we should now see in sales tax a more meaningful description rather than just N or Y. So it was as simple as, and I'll just flash it up again, sales tax flag, add in some code that you guys should be used to, because this is code that's based in your environment. So SQL Server in this case, it's just a case of writing a simple bit of syntax and placing it in there. And actually we'll flick to the procedure as well, and I'll display how that works. It's written the procedure with that transformation in. So we should see here the case statement added in. And then that's all of the rest of the code that's generated via the template.
We have another one from Chris here. How easy, difficult is it to create a Delta load process?
So we saw when I loaded the tables that it was just a simple drag and drop, but we didn't do much with it. If we were to look at orders in particular, you may not want to take all of your orders, because once an order's fulfilled, it's pretty much done and dusted. It doesn't, no attributes really change. So you have this where clause here, which allows you to basically restrict what data you can. If the order table, which more than likely will have, has an order date or posted date or some other date, you can set a high watermark based on what you've previously loaded. So if we've loaded today's data and we've got all of the orders from yesterday, then we can set the date to today or yesterday, and then within our where clause on the order table on this section here, we could reference that date here and then only load from that date onwards. And we store that in something called a parameter, which WhereScape has a number of parameters that can be used and created and then referenced throughout the application.
Once the other one was about them moving away from Oracle to Snowflake, how difficult is it to do that with WhereScape?
We have a set of templates, and these templates are repository specific, so where your warehouse is going to live. So SQL Server in this example, there's a whole load of templates that you can import that are specific to Oracle or Snowflake, and it would just be a case of importing those templates into WhereScape and changing some connection details and rebuilding your objects and rebuilding your procedures, and then you'd be able to re-platform pretty simply.
So that just reuses all of the same metadata, but just creates different objects that interact with the new platform.
Yeah,
cool.
Absolutely. So you would have to think about your data types, but WhereScape handles the fact that it has SQL Server to Oracle data types. So if you're going from date to date time or char to varchar, it really does handle all of that within the templates and the data type mappings.
Awesome. Thank you, Carl. I think comprehensively answered that one out now. If you think of anything after today's session, please don't hesitate to get in touch. We'd be more than happy to reach out and answer any questions you have. We can even go into a bit more detail some of the things you've shown today if you're really interested. And we hope to see you again at future events. And a big thank you to the guys from WhereScape for joining and helping us out today. Appreciate them coming along.